There is a moment coming in your life that will rewrite everything you thought you knew about money. Not because you worked harder, not because you finally figured out the perfect strategy, but because something invisible that has been standing between you and your overflow is about to be removed. And when it is removed, you will look back at this exact moment and realize this was the beginning of your before and after. Right now, as you read these words, there is wealth that belongs to you, not metaphorically, not spiritually in some distant realm. Actual financial abundance that has your name written on it in a language older than currency itself. It has been circling your life, trying to land, trying to find its way into your hands, into your accounts, into your reality. But there is something in the way, something you cannot see with your physical eyes, something you have carried for so long that it feels like part of who you are. The angels who watch over your financial destiny have been trying to show you this block for years. They have sent you signs through repetition, through the same financial patterns playing out again and again, through the moment you almost had the breakthrough, and then it slipped away at the last second. Through the opportunities that looked perfect on paper but dissolved into nothing. Through the exhaustion of trying and never quite arriving. Every single one of those moments was not a failure. It was a messenger. It was heaven trying to get your attention and say, there is something blocking the flow, and until you see it, nothing we send can reach you. This is not about worthiness. You are not being punished. You are not cosmically unlucky. You are not cursed by your past or your family line or your mistakes. The block is not a judgment. It is a misalignment. It is a belief that was installed in you before you had the consciousness to question it. It is a wound that became a filter. It is a story you were told that you made into law, and that law has been governing your financial reality ever since. The reason you have not experienced your first overflow yet is not because you lack talent or intelligence or work ethic. It is because the invisible block translates every opportunity into the language of your wound. It takes abundance and runs it through the filter of your deepest fear. It looks at money coming toward you and asks, what will this cost me? What will I lose? Who will I become that I am afraid to be? And in that split second of hesitation, of unconscious resistance, the flow redirects. The opportunity shifts. The money finds someone else whose channel is open. Your angels have been preparing you for this revelation. Every disappointment was not wasted. Every time you felt the sting of almost was not punishment. It was preparation. Because the invisible block cannot be removed until you are ready to see it. And seeing it requires you to look at the part of yourself you have been protecting. The part you have been hiding even from yourself. The part that believes if you truly let wealth in, something terrible will happen. Maybe you learned that money changes people, and you watched someone you loved become someone you did not recognize. Maybe you learned that having more means someone else has less, and your empathy became a ceiling. Maybe you learned that people who want wealth are selfish, and your goodness became your poverty. Maybe you learned that you are safe in struggle, and prosperity feels like walking into unknown territory without a map. Maybe you learned that you do not deserve to receive without suffering first, and ease feels like cheating. Whatever the block is for you, it is specific. It is personal. It is wrapped around a moment in your past where you made a decision about what money means and what it costs and who you have to be to have it. And that decision has been running your financial operating system ever since. Every choice you make with money, every opportunity you say yes or no to, every limit you unconsciously accept, all of it flows from that original block. But here is what the angels want you to know. The block was never the truth. It was a survival response. It was the best answer your younger self could find to make sense of a confusing or painful situation. It was protection. It was wisdom in that moment. But it is no longer serving you. It is no longer keeping you safe. It is keeping you small. It is keeping you separate from the overflow that is meant for you. Your first overflow is not just an amount of money. It is a frequency. It is the experience of receiving beyond what you thought was possible. It is the moment when more comes in than goes out, and it keeps coming, and you do not have to control it or earn it or justify it. It just flows. And for that flow to reach you, the block must be seen, acknowledged, and released. Not through force, not through positive thinking or affirmations that try to override the wound, but through deep, compassionate recognition of what you have been carrying and why you have been carrying it. The invisible block is losing its power over you right now. Just by reading these words, just by becoming aware that there is something between you and your overflow, you have begun the process of dismantling it. Awareness is the first step. Recognition is the crack in the wall. And through that crack, light is beginning to pour in. The light of your true financial identity, the identity that was there before the block was formed, the identity that knows how to receive, the identity that expects overflow as natural, as obvious, as inevitable. You are standing at the edge of your first overflow. Not because you have done everything perfectly, not because you have healed every wound, but because you are finally ready to see what has been invisible. And when you see it, when you truly recognize it for what it is, the block will dissolve. And the wealth that has been waiting for you, circling your life, will finally find its way home. The invisible block has a voice. You have heard it your entire life, but you thought it was your voice. You thought it was logic. You thought it was wisdom. You thought it was protecting you from harm. But it is not your voice. It is the voice of the wound. And it has been translating your financial reality into the language of limitation for as long as you can remember. Listen carefully to the thoughts that arise when you imagine your first overflow. When you picture money flowing into your life with ease, beyond what you need, beyond what you expected, what is the first feeling that comes? Not the excitement, not the relief, the other feeling, the one underneath, the one that whispers, "But what if?" The one that tightens in your chest, the one that makes you pull back just slightly, just enough to keep the overflow at a safe distance. That feeling is the invisible block speaking, and it is trying to protect you from something it believes is dangerous. Maybe it believes that if you have overflow, people will want things from you that you cannot give. Maybe it believes that abundance will expose you, will put you in the spotlight, will require you to show up in ways you are not ready for. Maybe it believes that more money means more problems, more responsibility, more pressure. Maybe it believes that you will lose yourself in the having, that you will become someone you do not respect. These beliefs are not random. They were formed in specific moments. Moments when you watched what money did to someone. Moments when you felt the pain of lack and decided that wanting wealth made you weak or shallow. Moments when you were taught that good people do not focus on money, that spiritual people live simply, that overflow is for other kinds of people. Moments when you succeeded and then lost everything, and your nervous system decided that having is too risky. The block is not just a belief. It is a protective mechanism. It is your inner system trying to keep you safe from a pain it has already experienced or witnessed. And because it is trying to protect you, it will sabotage every opportunity that looks like it might lead to overflow. Not consciously, not obviously, but in the subtle ways. In the hesitation before you say yes, in the second guessing after you take the first step, in the sudden exhaustion or confusion or distraction that shows up right when momentum is building. Your angel is standing beside you right now, and they are asking you to do something that will feel vulnerable. They are asking you to identify the specific moment when the block was formed. Close your eyes for a moment and ask yourself, when did I first learn that overflow was dangerous? When did I first decide that having more than enough was not for me? When did I first feel the fear that comes with receiving beyond my perceived limits? The memory might not come as a single event. It might come as a pattern. It might come as a feeling you have carried for so long that it feels like your baseline. But somewhere in your history, there is a moment when you chose safety over expansion, when you chose invisibility over abundance, when you chose control over trust. And that moment became the invisible block. Here is what most people do not understand about financial blocks. They are not removed by force. They are not overcome by willpower. They are not defeated by working harder or wanting it more. They are dissolved by compassion, by looking at the part of you that created the block and saying, "I see why you did this. I understand what you were trying to protect me from. Thank you for keeping me safe. But I am ready now. I am ready to release this protection and step into the overflow that is waiting for me." The block was never your enemy. It was your guardian. It was the part of you that said, "I will not let you get hurt the way we got hurt before. I will not let you be vulnerable to the pain that comes with having and losing. I will keep you in limitation because limitation is predictable, and predictable feels safe. But safety that costs you your overflow is not true safety. It is a cage that looks like wisdom. Your first overflow cannot come until you are willing to thank the block and release it, until you are willing to say to that protective part of yourself, "I honor what you have done for me, but I am no longer the person who needs this kind of protection. I have grown. I have changed. I am capable of holding abundance without losing myself. I am capable of receiving overflow without it destroying me. I am ready to become the version of myself that knows how to flow with wealth instead of resisting it." And here is where the angels step in with a truth that will change everything. The invisible block is not keeping abundance away from you. It is keeping you away from the abundance that is already here. The overflow is not something you have to create or attract or manifest. It is already in motion. It is already moving toward you. But you have been standing behind the block, and the block has been translating the overflow into something that looks like lack. When you release the block, you do not suddenly receive new abundance. You suddenly see the abundance that was always there. You see the opportunities you were filtering out. You see the money that was trying to reach you but could not get past your unconscious resistance. You see the version of yourself that was always capable of overflow but was hidden behind the identity of limitation. The angel speaking to you now is not asking you to fix yourself. They are asking you to remember yourself, the version of you that existed before the block was formed, the version that knew how to receive without fear, the version that expected good things as natural, the version that understood overflow as your birthright, not your burden. Drop a single word in the comments that represents what you are ready to release. Not a sentence, not an explanation, just one word. The word that captures the invisible block you are finally ready to see. Let that word be your declaration. Let it be the beginning of your overflow. There is a version of you that has never experienced overflow. This version has tried everything, has worked tirelessly, has hoped endlessly, has been disappointed repeatedly. This version has a relationship with money that is defined by effort and scarcity and the constant tension between wanting and having. This version is who you have been, but this version is not who you are becoming. The deepest truth the angels want you to understand is this. Your first overflow will not come to the identity you currently hold. It cannot, because the current identity is built on the foundation of the invisible block. It is constructed from the beliefs and fears and protective patterns that have kept you safe but small. And overflow does not fit into that structure. Overflow requires a completely different foundation, a completely different identity. This is why affirmations alone do not work. This is why vision boards and manifestation techniques feel hollow when the overflow does not come. Because you are trying to bring abundance into an identity that was designed for limitation. You are trying to pour an ocean into a cup. The cup is not broken. The cup is not wrong. The cup is simply not built to hold what is coming for you. Your identity is not fixed. It is not permanent. It is not who you truly are. It is a collection of stories you have told yourself and stories that were told to you. It is a set of beliefs about what is possible for someone like you. It is a framework of expectations based on what you have experienced in the past. And all of it can change. All of it is meant got to change, because the person you have been cannot hold the overflow that is meant for the person you are becoming. The reconstruction of your financial identity begins with a death, not a physical death, not a loss, but the death of the old story, the death of the version of you that believes overflow is for other people, the death of the identity that finds comfort in struggle because struggle is familiar, the death of the persona that needs to earn and prove and justify every dollar that comes into your life. This death is not violent, it is not traumatic, it is gentle, it is necessary, it is the caterpillar dissolving in the cocoon, it is the seed breaking open in the soil, it is the old skin being shed so the new one can emerge. And it requires your permission. It requires you to say, I am willing to let go of who I have been so I can become who I am meant to be. The old identity served you. It kept you alive. It helped you navigate a world that felt unsafe or unpredictable. It gave you strategies for managing lack. It taught you how to survive on less. But survival is not the same as thriving, and the overflow that is coming for you is not about survival. It is about thriving. It is about living in a frequency where enough is the floor, not the ceiling. Where more than enough is normal. Where ease is expected. The new identity that is being constructed inside you right now does not work for money. It receives money. It does not chase opportunities. It recognizes alignment. It does not prove its worth through productivity. It knows its value as inherent. It does not fear loss because it understands that overflow is not something you hold on to. It is something you flow with. It comes, it goes, it returns, and there is always more. This new identity does not believe in scarcity, not because it denies the existence of lack in the world, but because it understands that personal scarcity is a frequency, not a fact. It is a vibration you emit based on the stories you believe. And when you change the story, you change the frequency. When you change the frequency, you change what you attract, what you notice, what you allow in. The angels have been building this new identity inside you for longer than you realize. Every time you questioned the old patterns, every time you felt the exhaustion of trying to force results, every time you whispered to yourself, there has to be another way. That was the new identity beginning to emerge. That was the overflow consciousness waking up inside the limitation structure. But emergence requires space, and space requires release. You cannot become the new version while clinging to the old one. You cannot step into overflow while holding on to the identity that needs lack to feel safe. You have to choose. Not once, but again and again, every day, every moment, every time the old voice tries to pull you back into the familiar patterns of scarcity and struggle and proof. The choice is not easy. The old identity will fight for its survival. It will tell you that the new version is naive, that overflow consciousness is delusional, that people like you do not get to live like that. It will bring up every piece of evidence from your past to prove that limitation is your reality. It will remind you of every time you tried and failed. It will weaponize your history against your future. But the angels are asking you to see through the fear, to recognize that the old identity is not trying to hurt you. It is terrified of dying. It is terrified of becoming irrelevant. It is terrified that if you step into the new version, you will forget the old one. You will abandon it. You will leave it behind without gratitude for all the ways it protected you. So here is what you do. You thank the old identity. You honor it. You acknowledge everything it did to keep you safe. You tell it that it was never a mistake, that it was always part of the journey. And then you gently, firmly, lovingly release it. You say, your job is complete. You can rest now. I am ready to become who I was always meant to be. And in that release, in that sacred letting go, the new identity is born. The identity that expects overflow. The identity that knows how to receive. The identity that was always there, waiting beneath the block, waiting for you to be ready. Your first overflow is not coming to who you were. It is coming to who you are becoming. And you are becoming her now. The new identity is not theoretical. It is not a concept you meditate on and hope appears someday in the future. It is a frequency you step into now, today, in this moment. And stepping into it requires practical alignment. It requires you to make different choices, to think different thoughts, to respond to money in a completely different way than you have before. Practical alignment means you stop waiting for overflow to come before you act like the person who receives overflow. You become that person first. You embody the frequency first. You think the thoughts first. You make the choices first. And then the overflow comes as confirmation of what you have already become, not as the catalyst for your transformation. The person who receives overflow does not check their bank account with anxiety. They check it with curiosity. They do not see numbers as judgment of their worth or proof of their failure. They see numbers as information, as data, as a snapshot of current flow, not a definition of permanent reality. When the account is low, they do not panic. They notice. They adjust. They trust that flow is always moving, always shifting, always responding to alignment. The person who receives overflow does not hoard. They do not grip. They do not operate from the belief that what they have is all there is. They spend with intention, not with fear. They give with joy, not with resentment. They invest in themselves, in their growth, in their expansion, because they know that the best use of money is to become the version of yourself that can hold more of it. This is where most people misunderstand wealth consciousness. They think it means spending money you do not have. They think it means pretending you are rich when you are broke. They think it means ignoring practical reality in favor of magical thinking. But that is not alignment. That is denial. That is the old identity trying to shortcut its way to overflow without doing the inner work of becoming the person who can sustain it. True alignment means you honor where you are while embodying where you are going. It means you make responsible choices with the money you currently have while thinking the thoughts of someone who has overflow. It means you do not create debt to perform abundance, but you also do not shrink yourself to fit into scarcity. You live in the tension of both realities, the reality of your current numbers and the reality of your expanding identity. The angels are asking you to pay attention to the micro choices you make with money every single day. The thought you think when you pay a bill. The feeling you have when you see something you want but cannot currently afford. The energy you bring to conversations about finances. The way you speak about money when no one is listening. These micro moments are where alignment is built or broken. When you pay a bill, do you feel resentful that the money is leaving? Or do you feel grateful that you have money to exchange for a service you value? When you see something you want, do you immediately go into the story of, I can never have nice things? Or do you say to yourself, not right now, but this is evidence that my desires are expanding and my capacity to receive is expanding with them? When someone asks you how you are doing financially, do you perform struggle to seem humble or relatable? Or do you speak truthfully about where you are while holding the vision of where you are going? These are not small things. These are the moments where you either reinforce the old identity or step into the new one. These are the moments where you either stay behind the invisible block or move through it. Your overflow is listening to how you speak about money. It is watching how you treat the money you already have. It is paying attention to whether you act like someone who expects more or someone who expects lack. And it is responding accordingly. Not because the universe is testing you, not because you have to prove your worthiness, but because frequency is magnetic. You attract what you are, not what you want. If you are the frequency of scarcity, you will keep experiencing scarcity no matter how hard you work or how much you visualize. If you are the frequency of overflow, you will begin to notice opportunities, ideas, synchronicities, and money showing up in ways that feel effortless. Not because you are doing less, but because you are being different. The practical alignment the angels are calling you into is simple, but not easy. It is simple because it is just a choice to think differently, to feel differently, to respond differently. But it is not easy because the old patterns are deeply grooved. The old identity has been running the show for years, maybe decades, and it will not step aside without resistance. So you practice. Every day, every moment you remember, you catch yourself in the old thought pattern and you gently redirect. You notice yourself shrinking into scarcity and you consciously expand into overflow. You feel the fear of having more and you breathe into it instead of running from it. You practice being the person who receives until being that person is no longer practice, until it is just who you are. And here is what will happen as you align. Your first overflow will not feel like a miracle. It will feel like a natural next step. It will feel like, of course this is happening. Of course money is flowing in. Of course opportunities are opening because you have become someone for whom overflow is obvious. Someone for whom abundance is expected. Someone who no longer lives behind the invisible block but has stepped fully into the frequency of receiving. If this message is landing in your spirit, if you feel the shift happening inside you as you read these words, subscribe now. Not because I need you to, but because your subscription is a declaration. It is you telling the universe, I am ready for more. I am aligning with overflow. I am becoming the person who receives. Let that simple action be the first step of your practical alignment. Let it be the evidence that you are no longer waiting. You are becoming. The angels have been counting down to this moment, not this moment of you reading these words, but the moment that is coming. The moment when the invisible block fully dissolves and your first overflow breaks through into your physical reality. That moment is closer than you think. It is closer than it has ever been. And it is not coming because you finally did everything right. It is coming because you finally became ready to receive it. There is a prophetic word being spoken over your finances right now. It is being spoken in the realm where wealth is formed before it manifests, where opportunities are aligned before they appear, where abundance is prepared before it arrives. And the word is this: release. Not release as in letting go of your desires. Release as in the floodgates are opening. The dam is breaking. The overflow that has been held back is about to pour into your life. You have been in a season of preparation, a season that felt like delay, a season where it seemed like everyone else was experiencing breakthrough while you were still waiting. But it was never delay. It was divine timing. It was the universe ensuring that when your overflow comes, you are strong enough to hold it, grounded enough to sustain it, aligned enough to steward it well. The invisible block was the last thing standing between you and the release. And now that you have seen it, now that you have named it, now that you have begun the process of dismantling it, the pathway is clear. The channel is open, the frequency is aligned, and the overflow is moving toward you with momentum that cannot be stopped. Here is what you need to know about your first overflow. It will come in a way you did not expect. You have been imagining how it will happen. You have been trying to figure out the strategy, the path, the method, but overflow does not follow your plans. It follows your alignment. It comes through the door you did not know was there. It shows up in the form you were not looking for. It surprises you in the best possible way. Maybe it comes as an opportunity that seems too good to be true, but is actually just the universe matching your new frequency. Maybe it comes as money from a source you forgot about, showing up at the exact moment you need it most. Maybe it comes as a promotion, a contract, a gift, an inheritance, an idea that turns into income faster than you thought possible. Maybe it comes as all of your small streams of income suddenly multiplying at once. However it comes, you will recognize it. Not because it looks like what you expected, but because it feels like relief, like exhale, like finally. Like the moment when you realize you are no longer fighting for every dollar. You are no longer calculating and strategizing and worrying. You are receiving, you are flowing, you are in overflow. And when that moment comes, the old identity will try one last time to pull you back. It will whisper, "This is temporary. It will not last. Do not get too comfortable. Do not trust this. Save it all. Protect it. Hold it tight. Because the old identity cannot comprehend overflow. It only knows survival. It only knows scarcity. And it will try to convince you that overflow is the exception, not the new normal. But you will know better. Because you have done the work. You have seen the invisible block. You have released the old identity. You have aligned with the frequency of receiving, and you will recognize the old voice for what it is, fear trying to disguise itself as wisdom, and you will thank it for trying to protect you, and you will choose the new identity anyway. The new identity knows that overflow is not a one-time event. It is a way of being. It is a frequency you live in, and once you have experienced it, once you have felt what it feels like to receive beyond your needs, beyond your expectations, you cannot go back. You cannot unsee what you have seen. You cannot unknow what you now know. You are forever changed. This is the prophetic financial release the angels have been preparing you for. Not just the money, not just the opportunity, but the permanent shift in your identity, the permanent expansion of your capacity, the permanent opening of the channel between you and the abundance that is always flowing. You are moving from someone who occasionally experiences overflow to someone who lives in overflow. From someone who hopes for abundance to someone who expects it. From someone who chases money to someone who receives it. And here is the final truth the angels want you to carry with you. Your first overflow is not the end. It is the beginning. It is the proof of concept. It is the evidence that everything you have been learning, everything you have been becoming, is real. It works. It is true. And it is just the start of what is possible for you. After your first overflow comes your second, and then your third. And then overflow stops being something you celebrate as unusual and starts being something you manage as normal. And the invisible block that once stood between you and your abundance becomes a distant memory. A story you tell about who you used to be before you remembered who you truly are. You are standing at the edge of your financial resurrection. The old version is dying. The new version is being born. The overflow is already in motion. And the only thing left for you to do is receive it. Not by working harder, not by figuring it out, but by continuing to align, by continuing to choose the new identity, by continuing to trust that what is coming for you is greater than anything you have experienced before. The invisible block is gone. The pathway is clear. Your first overflow is coming, and you are ready. Declare it now. Speak it into existence. Say out loud or in your heart, I am ready to receive my first overflow. I release the invisible block. I step into my new financial identity. I align with abundance. I expect overflow. And so it is.